Hello, welcome back guys. I'm Halifax, and in this video we are going to talk about one last thing, one very important thing, meaning FPS Injector, which basically allows you to unlock the full potential of your frame per second in a rendering engine or your game. We're going to talk about the general information and what exactly this feature is, and how we are going to use the plugin, because actually this is a plugin. Now, the reason I put highly advanced here is because most of you will not know how to do this. It doesn't really matter that you know or you may not know programming, C++, C, C# or stuff like that, because in this case it will not mostly help you. This thing is done at a much more lower level, and meaning is done directly in assembly using reverse engineering techniques. So if you know what reverse engineering techniques are and how you can use them on an application and stuff like that, and you're familiar with assembly, debugging a program in assembly and stuff like that, then you will feel, probably you will feel right at home. So before we start, previously we used Broken Age. Now in the last video I showed you exactly how Broken Age looks after we fixed all the shaders. You can see the menus in 3D, no halos, no weird stuff. In the previous video I forgot to save some of the shaders, so I added the convergence and the uniforms, but I actually forgot to hit Ctrl S to actually save them, and that's why some stuff was looking a little bit awkward. But now, as you can see, all the shaders have the same thing applied. The exception shaders, basically, the ones for the UI, see? So everything is the same in all of them, and say exactly the same thing, and you get this thing. So if you continue, everything is in 3D, the UI, alternative convergence, increasing, decreasing, depth, minimizing depth, maximizing depth. So everything that you expect from a 3D vision game works here. So the reason I launched the application again is that I wanted to show you the frame per second that we get in this application. The top left corner you see 33 frames per second. Now this game is actually hard locked at 60 frames per second, and you see 30. The reason this happened is because normally 3D Vision Automatic in DirectX games, the official NVIDIA implementation, does some additional stuff directly in the driver at a very low level in the driver, meaning it forces, or the GPU is being told to render the same frame twice. In my case, I can't do that. I looked in their documentation, I asked a couple of questions on NVIDIA developer forums how I can tell the driver to actually render one frame 2 times. Nobody replied. So in the documentation I couldn't find anything about how one can do this, except for the fact that 3D Vision Automatic does it. So because of that, I have no idea how I can do it. Certainly I can't do it from the application side. Side. I looked in NVIDIA API. I can't find a way to tell the GPU stop, render the same frame 2 times. So if somebody knows and wants to help, please let me know. I'll welcome all the help I can get. So Yes, as you can see, we get 30 frames per second. That's because we are rendering, the wrapper renders consecutive frames. So left eye frame 1, right eye frame 2, left eye frame 3, right eye frame 4. So now that we see 30 frames per second, we are going to, and that's the normal thing that we get, we are going to open the content of the wrapper, of the archive with the wrapper that you downloaded from my website. And inside you'll find some files, the documentation, which I'm still need to add it, the shader folder, where you can see how you can disable a pixel shader, a vertex shader, the 64-bit version of the wrapper, the 32-bit version of the wrapper, the NVIDIA profile, which I covered in the first video and will cover in the next video as well, and an FPS Inject template. So if we open it, we get a C++ file, a header file, and a project. The project is created with Visual Studio 2013. If you get the Express version, which is free to download, you can open it, which is what I'm going to do. So I'm opening it, and inside we get the header file, which basically contains a class with some functions and some private functions which you don't need to care about. The only functions that we are actually interested in are these three: synchronize left, synchronize right, and synchronize rendering. In the CPP file where the actual implementation, you can see synchronize rendering left and right. So the synchronize rendering function actually writes the initial code cave or bytes in the application memory. I'll cover what a code cave is in this video in a couple of minutes. You need the process, which is actually the process name. In this case is brokenage.exe, the executable name. This you don't need to meddle with, you don't need to change that. If you have a valid base address, then we start doing our stuff. So what you need to change normally is the offset, which is actually the base address that we get here, plus this offset. So this actually gives you the location in memory where we are going to write this thing. That's actually 1 byte in this case. So then we do at that memory location, that's right, and we close the handle of the process. So in this case, the fix for broken edge actually require changing 1 tiny byte in order for the code to run in a different manner. So this function gets called only when the wrapper is being initialized, so only once. Now we have the sync left and the sync right. These functions get called once per eye rendering. So every time the left eye is being rendered, this function gets called, and the right eye function gets called. So basically in these functions we can write in memory at a specific location, like we've seen above, a series of bytes that are valid for the left eye and for the right eye in the other one. For example, in the left eye you tell the engine to keep on waiting. So basically you tell the engine not to advance the time of the actual world. So this will mean it will keep on rendering over and over and over the same scene, exactly the same scene. It's like you put a movie on pause and you keep staring at the screen. The screen actually renders the same thing over and over and over and over again. There is no time progression. So if you want to stop the time progression, here is the place to do it. And then on the sync right, you basically tell, yeah, I want the next, I want to render the next frame in time. So these functions are being automatically called by the wrapper. In this case, this template features, because I focused heavily on broken edge in this video, this template features the actual fix for broken edge. So if we select the release version and we go and rebuild. We build it and we get it in Win32 release FPS injection point. So Win32 release, and we get a DLL file which is called FPS injection DLL. So before we do anything, I want to show you again. You start Broken Age, you get what you normally get, 33 frames per second. You copy this DLL file, you just paste it directly inside the game next to OpenGL 32 DLL, which is the actual wrapper. You launch the game, and surprise, surprise, you actually get 240 something frames per second. So this is the FPS unlock. You can actually see the time delta between left eye and right eye is so small that you can't perceive it, you can't see it. This basically allows you to get an approximation of the same frame. It's an approximation because there is a tiny, very small, tiny difference, but your eyes will not see it at this frame rate. You run it again and you can see it. See, everything is very smooth. You can click, you can't see any difference. So basically, yeah, this is how you do it. Now this is 3D Vision Discover, as you can see. In 3D Vision, in the real 3D Vision, your frame rate should be capped at 120 frames per second, or probably 60. I don't know exactly. I think 3D Vision caps it at 60 no matter what you do. So yeah, you will not get 200, you will get 60 frames per second, which is the maximum 3D Vision works at. As you can see. So basically, this is the little plugin that I wanted to show, and the template, and I explained you how you can use it. So if I remove this one, I just rename it. We get 30 frames again. I add it up, that's F1. I add it back. You get your frame rate unlocked again. Now, Broken Age is a very easy game to fix. Probably I will get a lot of replies after this video why I didn't do the same thing on id5 engines like Rage and Wolfenstein. Believe me, I tried for 2 days and I got some results. They weren't very satisfactory from my point of view, and then I simply didn't have the time, and currently I don't have the time to pursue that direction or this thing anymore. If you want to try it, be free to try it. Another thing that I want to mention is that this fix here, this fix, because of this offset, applies only to this executable. Some of you might know, especially if you're into surround gaming, where I created a lot of fixes for surround and Affinity. You know that every time a game gets patched, probably this will not work, or it will crash, this fix or the surround fix. So this is per game. You could, if you want to, you could expand the class. It's actually a class, as you can see here. You can expand the class, and you can add a simple configuration file in which you can specify multiple offsets or multiple addresses for individual variants of the game, versions, and so on and so on and so on. So that's totally possible. I don't want to save any solutions. So yeah. Now, before I finish this video, because I showed you how the feature works, now you can add stuff and how you can unlock the FPS. So before I finish this little thing, I promised I'll talk about code caves and how you can actually implement a fix like this. Like I said it in the starting part of the video, I can't actually teach you. I can't actually create a tutorial. Each game is different, each engine is different. There aren't any direct ways or any steps, direct steps that you can actually follow. However, what I can tell you is you could probably use cheat engine. For example, it gives you the ability to do a lot of stuff. If you don't know what cheat engine is, you can Google it. It has a couple of tutorials. Even the application comes with a basic tutorial teaching you how you can find stuff in memory, how you can modify, and so on and so on. What I can tell you is that if you go on my webpage on 3dsurroundgaming.com, and if you click here on my name, you'll get to my portfolios website, and here on the portfolio programming, multi-monitor rendering, you can see a couple of multi-monitor fixes that I made using the same writing memory manipulation. And here you can find a presentation which I made for while at the university. And in this presentation, this is obviously focused for multi-monitor gaming, but in this presentation, in a lower part, you can, under solutions, you can find how you can do this thing. So intercepting draw calls, we already do this in the wrapper, but what you're interested in is in code injection techniques, and this is basically the one that I'm focusing on. You'll need to know this one, and x64 for x64 applications, and yeah, basically this will give you an idea of what you need to search on the internet and what tutorials you might follow and the steps it needs to be done and stuff like that. So it gives you a pretty much or a pretty clear idea on what you need to pursue in order to actually be able to find and modify the game engine, so you could unlock the frame per second calculation. So with this video we are basically closing the initial documentation release. We have only one more video which will focus on how to make a fix release. So you created your own fix, you have it working like I have it here, and you want to share it with the world or the community or with somebody else, your friend, and you don't want him to get or to do all these steps all over again by himself. You want him to say, here, drop these files, you use these files with your game and it will work. So in the next video we're focusing on how to make a fix release. But until then, I hope you understood everything that I explained. I know this video might seem a little bit vague or confusing, but like I said, if you try and follow what I showed you in this video and you're willing to learn, and you will learn, it is possible, and it will be possible like I showed you on Broken Age. So yes, so until we see each other, all of us, next time in the next video, take care guys, cheers.